Welcome to the Influential Christian Entrepreneur Podcast, where we uncover the inspiring stories and strategies of successful Christian entrepreneurs. In today's episode, we have the pleasure of interviewing Megan Giles, who says that most graphic designers will deliver a beautiful layout, but don't understand that the words you use matter. She helps clients with their marketing messages as well. So every piece she designs uses the right words to turn prospects into customers. Thank you. Welcome, Megan.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. And so tell me a little bit about this. Are you a graphic designer or are you a storyteller, or is it both?
Mostly graphic design, and I work with a lot of copywriters who use story-based marketing. And I've dabbled in the copywriting myself, but my focus is design.
So your clients are copywriters.
I do work with a lot of copywriters, or my clients range from enterprise to small business to solopreneurs, startups. Client base is all across the board, and then I bring on whatever I'm sorry. Can we just start over?
That's fine. That's okay. I'll cut. Let me just, so that my editor knows to cut.
Also, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Last name is Giles, not Giles.
Oh my gosh.
I thought about stopping you there. And
you should have stopped me.
What? Okay.
That's okay. Okay, cut.
Okay,
We're starting at
all right.
Now again. Okay. So it's Giles. Like a J.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, Giles. Woo. I never thought that there would be an alternative pronunciation to that. Okay. All right. So 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Influential Christian Entrepreneur Podcast, where we uncover the inspiring stories and strategies of successful Christian entrepreneurs. In today's episode, we have the pleasure of interviewing Megan Giles, who says that most graphic designers will deliver a beautiful layout, but don't understand that the words you use also matter. She helps clients with their marketing messages as well. So every piece she designs uses the right words to turn prospects into customers. Welcome, Megan. How are you today?
Hi, Francine. Thank you for having me. I'm doing well.
Great. So tell me exactly, are you a graphic designer or storyteller?
I am a graphic designer, and I use the story marketing principles in everything I design, whether that's a flyer, a website, even business cards.
So you work with, who are the types of clients that hire your services?
So my clients are across the board, enterprise, C-suite execs, solopreneurs, startups. And then when I'm working with those clients, I'll bring on marketing strategists, copywriters, SEO experts, whatever expert we need to fulfill the client's project.
Oh, perfect.
What they need.
So all across the board. So you combine the words and the visual aspect of the marketing.
Yes.
Perfect. How long have you been doing this?
So I've been on my own since 2018. I was in the corporate world for 7 years. 7. I'd been saying 10 for so long, and I finally looked it up, and no, I only lasted 7. Left corporate in 2018. Branding and the visual design was always part of whatever my job description was, but I also did a lot of event planning and phone sales. I kind of had a lot of different duties throughout my career there. But since 2018, I've been on my own doing graphic design and learning along the way more and more marketing skills, and really building out my network of marketing professionals so that if it's a skill set I don't have, I can either refer my clients onto them or bring that expert onto the project that we're working on.
So you're building out your network. And how are you liking the entrepreneurial space versus the 9 to 5? Is it better? Is it What do you like about it?
This is what I was made for.
Yeah.
I was not made to sit in an office. And I love the variety of days.
Mm-hmm.
There's some days I sit in front of my computer for 10 hours working on a project. There's other days where I don't turn on the computer at all because I'm out talking to people, going to a networking event or a conference. Yesterday, I went shopping on a Tuesday because I had to get, doctor's appointments in. I'm an hour from any decent shopping. I live in small town Kansas. And so I'm an hour from Walmart. So that's a half day trip right there.
Wow. So you're in a remote area,
Yes,
an hour from Walmart.
Yes. I come from an agriculture background. So
Yeah.
I'm surrounded by cattle ranches now.
Cattle ranches. Do you do any garden farming yourself or growing anything?
Oh, so I do have a fun garden story. So I was in Fort Worth for 13-ish years, something like that. Most of my adult life I've been in the city. And recently, last fall, moved back home to Kansas where my family is. They're cattle ranchers, and so they're not going anywhere. So bought an old house, fixing it up. I'm in town of 600. And the house came with a greenhouse and some tubs of dirt that the previous owner had probably had some kind of garden in. It's like, well, I'll just try this whole composting thing, get the dirt ready for next year because I'm remodeling the inside right now. Once the inside is done, then next summer I can take on a garden. So with all this composting, I'm literally throwing my scraps in the dirt, and that's just how it went. Then it started raining torrentially. And then little green things started popping up. I was like, this is interesting. So I just let it go. And now I have this ginormous spaghetti squash plant that is taking over my backyard. And I've been calling it God's garden. I feel like it's just a sign from him saying, I got you. I'm going to take care of you. Everything's going to be fine. Because it's been a transition going from the big city where I was close to everything to being in small town, trying to figure out where I fit in a small town community.
Wow. Wow, in a small town community, I bet you're loving it so much better than being out there in the city hustling. Just the nice peace and quiet and just having all the, animals. I'd love to be in a remote area, but my husband's not for it. So we settled in between in the suburbs. I guess that's as good as it's gonna get.
Well, you are welcome to visit because I step out my front door and I can hear cows.
You can.
In the middle of town, yes.
That's pretty awesome. And so tell me, I'm sorry, Megan, why am I thinking Christine? Megan, how did you become a Christian, or have you always been a Christian?
Always. I'm cradle Catholic and very grateful for my parents to have grown up in the church, and it was always part of my life. And I knew faith was important, but I didn't start really taking it seriously until my early to mid 30s. So just within the last, well, especially since I started my business, really had to rely on him. And a few years prior to that. So within the last 10 years, actually okay, let's actually read the Bible. And what does God say about this? And instead of, because prior I was trying to keep everything separate.
Yeah.
It didn't mix with business. And life was really hard. I also, I didn't talk about faith with my friends very often either. And I was really big into the party scene, and that wasn't fulfilling. My corporate jobs, they weren't fulfilling. So I was always searching, and I would listen to EWTN radio, which is a Catholic radio network, while I was working for one company. And that kind of, I started before that though, even I think. Prior to getting that job, which I really liked, I was miserable in one of my jobs, and I had a 45-minute commute, and my dad said, well, with 45 minutes, why don't you pray the rosary on your way and ask God for a new job? And so I did. And within I don't know, 3 or 4 months maybe, that new job came along and it was wonderful. And so it was always these little parts of the Catholic faith that I had with me.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm really diving deeper into it, and we have so many more resources now with
Mm-hmm.
the way the world is connected. I'm a big fan of the Hallow app.
Yes, I've seen the Hallow app for sure.
Yeah, you can pray with Mark Wahlberg. How cool!
Yeah, and the guy from The Chosen that plays Jesus, I think
Yes,
he's
Jonathan
part of that.
Demme.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Jim Caviezel, which he played Jesus in the Passion.
Yes, in the Passion of the Christ. He's also a Catholic, I believe.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so having all those resources, I think, have also helped invigorate me because I can more easily access when I'm struggling with something in a world that feels so secular, like they're pushing God away. I can quickly Google or reach out to a different network and be like, okay, no, there's still a lot of Christians out there. We still have faith. And so I'm really making a bigger effort now to connect with other Christian business owners. Like that's how you and I met. Is
Like that through Brian Woodley. Yeah.
Who he and I had conversations about faith and business. He's like, you need to meet Francine. And I've had other friends now within the business world say, you need to connect with so-and-so because you both love Jesus and you love business. And I think you'd have a great conversation.
Isn't that amazing? But I think you alluded to something. Did you feel like when you first got back into your faith, did you feel like lonely? And then especially when you got into the online space, did you feel like, well, I mean, where are all the Christians? Did you feel like that? Because I felt like that.
Yes, absolutely. And I question a lot too. There's some people who say they're Christian, but they sure don't live like it. And I've been one of those people. And
Me too. Yeah. I had no idea I wasn't a Christian, actually. I thought I was when, like, oh, I'm a Christian. I believe in Christ.
Oh, but no, you actually have to, like, follow him and, like, do what he does and be like him. And that part's really hard.
It is. And nobody wants to do it because it's a hard pill to swallow to think, oh, man, I'm going to have to change the way I do things, change my life, that's like a lot of work. And do I want to stop? I'm just going to, you know what? I'm just going to keep living the way I live. And then when I get old or when I know I'm dying, I'm going to repent. But the thing is, you'd never know when you're going to die. Like only about a month ago, I almost died and had no idea, right? From an anaphylactic reaction. Blood pressure went down and I collapsed. I didn't even know I fainted. You can leave like this in a split second. So who's to say that you're going to have time?
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's living on the edge. Talk about living on the edge, living on the edge and gambling like your afterlife, like your eternal life. And I don't think that people grasp the importance of that because I didn't. I know being on this side and having just so recently been in the secular world, it's something that you cannot grasp. Like when you are in the secular or at least not in walking in faith, for one, you can't make sense of anything because you're biblically illiterate. Chances are I was biblically illiterate. Number two, you want to make God to fit to your, like what your idea of God should be. Like, oh, he would never put me here to just put me in a place that clearly I'm going to send to then just throw me away to hell. Like I didn't even ask to come here, like why that sounds like religion, manipulation, all these things. But there's so much more to that when you start diving deep with an open heart, open mind, and not everything's going to make sense immediately, but it's like a process, isn't it? What was your experience?
Big time. And every day it's a new set of challenges. Feels like a really hard word, but I mean challenges and opportunities for growth. let's change it to that.
Yeah, opportunities.
Opportunities to increase my faith. Because there's some days where I feel too Catholic to be around the group of people I'm around. And then I get in another setting and I'm like, ooh, I'm not Catholic enough or Christian enough. And by the way, all Catholics are Christians, not all Christians are Catholic.
Yeah, there is a difference.
As well, yeah. If some people
because I used to be a Catholic until 18. Now I'm a Christian, not a Catholic. So I understand the difference now. And it's essentially the difference is Christians don't pray to Mary or the saints. I think that's one of the biggest differences, right?
Did you know Catholics don't pray to Mary either?
What, Catholics?
No.
No, Catholics pray to Mary.
No, we ask her for prayers.
Oh, okay. That's a certain kind of Catholic?
Yeah, if a Catholic has told you that they are praying to Mary, then they have been led astray.
Oh, okay. Because when I was praying the rosary when I was a child, in my head, I was praying to Mary.
Oh, you're definitely, like, you can have a relationship with her and ask her to pray for you and intercede on your behalf.
Intercede on your behalf, right?
Saying, hey, Francine, will you pray for me today because I have this podcast
yeah.
I'm going to be on. Will you pray that I have the right words? And that's the exact same thing as going to Mary and saying, Mary, please pray that I have the right words on this podcast and present the faith well and not lead anyone
astray. Right. That's true. Yes. So good that you made that differentiation because you have all different denominations. And I feel like the biggest, what people really differentiate between Catholics and Christians, like that's the biggest, like, okay, so Christians, you have all the Protestants, whatever, all these other denominations, even the non-denominationals, and then you have Catholics in a completely different category, still within the Christian umbrella, which is so confusing to people who are not, like, you know, aren't Christians of any kind. So, yeah, for sure. And so, you know, it's good that we've been meeting people. I think it's worthwhile to make the effort to find other Christian entrepreneurs. It doesn't mean that we need to live in a silo. It also doesn't have, like in my case, my ideal client is a Christian man over 50 who's a business leader. In my case, they are Christians, but other entrepreneurs, maybe like yourself, don't necessarily work with Christians, and neither do we only want to work with Christians. It's nice when we do, but the whole point is for us to be able to point the rest of the world to God and spread the gospel. We're not going to like put ourselves in a corner and only talk to each other, only work with each other. But it's nice to have that support because especially if you're hiring somebody like a life coach, I feel like you're getting a better bang for your buck if you are a Christian and you're hiring someone who's also a sincere Christian because they can give you that additional spiritual dimension to everything in scripture and everything like that. Do you find that to be true as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And some days it is so tempting to go hide in that silo and just be like, I'm only talking to people who believe the same thing I do because I'm challenged. But
no, have you felt like that sometimes? Because I remember working with a client who self-described himself on one of his social media posts that I dug up as a heathen, as I was having trouble with him. And I'm like, this was some time ago. And I'm like, maybe this is what I know. And people describe themselves as heathens before I work with them because he gave me absolute hell, to be honest with you. And so we do feel tempted to just like, I only want to work with Christians. But that's not what we're here to do always, right?
Absolutely. Like we're here to be part of the world, and we can't be that light that Jesus is calling us to be if we're stuck over in the corner with just the people who believe like us.
Talking to each other makes no sense. And so we've always been told to never mix faith and business. You did it when you were in the corporate world. You didn't talk to people. And I'm assuming when you came to the online space, maybe you maybe didn't do it. Maybe you did. But we've always been told to not mix both things because we'll lose business and because it makes us look crazy and stupid or whatever it is. And so I'm wondering, what do you think? Do you think it's okay to incorporate your faith into your business as an online entrepreneur? And if so, how do you do it?
Oh, some days I do it very well and some days I do it very poorly. I was looking back. I just had my 5-year work or business anniversary on August 1st. And so now all my Facebook memories are what I was pushing out there 5 years ago, which I did a lot of Bible verses to like just drum up conversations on Facebook. And I don't know how much effect that had on my clientele because I didn't get a ton of business off of Facebook. But it does show me that I've always tried. I think even if I didn't do it intentionally, I was trying to bridge that gap and bring and business together. And even offline, I would be praying for my business. That's one thing that I did in the very beginning, was I had a prayer that I prayed every day over my business. And I could see God working in so many different ways. There was this one point so I started in August 2018, and by January 2019, I was struggling. I did not know how I was going to pay my mortgage. I'd underbid a project severely and underestimated the time it was going to take and everything. And the client hadn't paid the invoice yet. And so I was on my knees crying one night. Lord, I don't know how I'm going to pay my mortgage. I refuse to ask other people for help. There's multiple people I could go to, but I don't want a handout. I want to do this on my own. On my own with his help.
Yes.
And the next day I got a text from that client that I underbid, and she said, "Send me a new invoice. You did not charge me enough. I know you're spending more time on this. Send me the real invoice." And she paid it, and I paid my mortgage. And
oh my gosh, the Holy Spirit touched her heart.
Right? If that is not a God thing, I don't know.
Who does that? Like,
right? Who says?
Yeah, charge me more money.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So that's just one beautiful story that I remember whenever I get really down. I'm like, nope, God will take care of me. It will be fine. And so brings me to one thing that I'm trying to figure out how to publish it on my website somewhere, and actually where I want to put it, since I'm in the marketing space, is my number one marketing tip is prayer. And then, do all the things that the books tell you to do, like, put yourself out there.
Yeah, that's the number one. Your number one marketing tip is prayer. So you're not sure how to incorporate that?
Yeah. I would be like, you don't need a fancy website and lead generator, which is funny because I sell those things and I design them. You need to start praying for your business and then add in all those things.
A lead generator, do you mean like a lead magnet?
Right. Correct.
After this conversation, I want to talk to you about something because an idea just popped up in my head. Maybe God put you here today because of this. But so let me ask you, how do you share? So that's what you want to do. You used to share Bible verses. How are you sharing now? Are you like using your have you gotten to the point where you're feeling comfortable with sharing your personal stories and include talking about your testimony, or using your personal stories to include something about God? Have you gotten to that point yet?
Not unless somebody specifically asks me. But I don't, let's see, how do I say this?
I mean, on social media specifically, like posting your personal.
Yeah, I have been commenting on, I have a lot of friends who bridge the gap between business and faith. And so I will comment on their posts. I'm also in a networking group called Sent Ventures, and it's for Catholic entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs. And having them has been super helpful. So I comment on all their posts. Sometimes I'll share something. And so whenever I do events of theirs, then I can talk about that.
Right. Yeah. It gives reach.
Right.
Reach.
Without just coming right out to clients and saying, hey, I'm Catholic. What do you believe? And it's more in conversation when they're asking about
Right.
life. I'm like, okay, well, I have a set networking event coming up. And they're like, oh, what's Scent? I said, oh, well, let me just tell you.
Yeah. A segue.
So it opens up conversations like that.
Yeah. Opening up, starting up the conversations for sure.
Yeah.
Everybody has a different style is one thing that I'm finding, because like you said, you know, you started one way, you're finding what's going to be more attuned to what you're doing now. One thing that I started doing was, and the way that I came to Christ actually in 2020 was I saw, I don't know whose content, maybe several people, personal stories, like talking about their testimony. I didn't like, initially I didn't really like it that much. I was like, oh, that's cool. But yeah, there goes that religious stuff kind of thing. I'm not for it, you know, but it wasn't just one person. I was seeing a couple things around here, and that just kind of planted a seed. So I thought about that. I'm like, wow, it's amazing how people just putting out personal stories of testimony or whatever message in their personal stories had such an impact on me. I'm wondering if I can do the same thing and actually help other people do it. So then when I finally decided to publicly, recently, only in the past few months, you know, incorporate my faith into my personal brand and talk publicly about it, I started talking about I've had a couple of posts where I'm talking about my personal story, my testimony. And wow, is that having, I mean, the podcast itself as well, but wow, am I getting a lot of messages about that? Because you never know what you're going to say that is just going to resonate with somebody, and you'll probably never know, because we all speak differently. We all have different experiences. And so I find that for me, because I'm a very private person and I feel like I'm not that much of an extrovert, it is not the easiest thing for me to write a personal story and post it online for everybody. But I feel that I owe it to God, because that's the way that I came to Christ. And so I'm going to do it anyway. And it's amazing the impact that just a few little posts have had in addition to the podcast. So if that's not something you're doing, and if you feel comfortable doing it, I would strongly recommend that for sure.
I have a meeting set up next week with one of my marketing friends who really has honed in on business and faith to like help support me and give me some ideas. Like, how do I want to, because I have a ton of businesses that I love to work with, and they're secular businesses. How do I be more open about my faith, and in a way that starts those conversations when I'm having a design review call, and maybe that client will say, hey, I saw your post this morning about going to mass, and I don't know, comment.
It doesn't feel offensive to anybody when you're speaking in the first person about your experience.
Yeah.
So for sure, I think that's a great idea, because even if they never come to you, you just never know what impact you'll have, and you'll probably never find out. But you are doing what was it Mark 15, I want to say, that says, Jesus said, go out into the world and spread the good news, or tell everyone the good news. I'm really bad with I'm still learning my Bible. Tell the good news to every creature. And that's and I feel like, in addition to not putting ourselves in a silo with all our with all our Christians, we also shouldn't hide our faith, and to express it in a way that feels natural, and non-offensive to people, because many times when you say the truth, it's still going to offend people, right? If you say a personal story, it's very rare that somebody's going to get offended, but just like stating the truth as we know it, Christians know it, is going to offend people. But it's all about and how you do it in the most loving way that you can, right? So that's part of the important thing. And so Going forward, now let's just say that you want to continue to work with Christian entrepreneurs. Have you ever found an instance where, or do you feel like you will ever run into a case where someone might not want to work with you because she goes to mass, so she's probably going to try to take me to church or convert? Have you ever had an instance where someone has not wanted to work with you specifically because they know that you're a Christian?
Not work specifically, but dating for sure.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But that's a whole other...
So people have literally not wanted to date you because you go to mass, because you go to church.
Yeah, because I'm Catholic, for sure.
Are they like were they like secular or just like another religion?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. So not in the business world, but in the love world, people have...
I've also been like, I don't know what you believe, and I know we don't believe the same thing, and so I don't think I really want to...
That's kind of hard, isn't it?
Both ways. Yeah.
I used to think that the unequal yoke thing was like, that's not a big deal. It's not a big deal if I think both people in the relationship are like non-practicing, maybe. Right? Like if I am a non-practicing Christian and I marry a non-practicing Jew, maybe it might not be a big deal, I'm thinking. But if both are practicing or one is very, very much into, it might be a big problem. I can see how that happens now.
Yeah.
For sure.
So
yeah. So Megan, how can people find you? How can they look at your work? Because I think that when it comes to visual work, it's best when people see it to understand it. And how can people find like your portfolio, the things that you do? Where would they go to look it up?
So my portfolio is on my website along with all the main services that I provide. And that is mggraphics.design. And another place is to connect with me on LinkedIn. I post design tips occasionally. I go through phases of being really good at posting and then I won't post anything.
I was going to say, I was going to ask you, where are you active? Yeah. Because I haven't seen you on LinkedIn and I've been on LinkedIn quite a bit. So it's LinkedIn.
Yes. So LinkedIn is just my name, Megan Giles. You can find Giles.
Mm-hmm.
Megangiles. I have a yellow-green background. So easy to find there.
Okay.
And if you are interested more in my kind of faith journey, and I do talk more about faith on my blog. So last year I sold everything and traveled for 7 or 8 months.
Where, like US or abroad?
Yeah, just the US. I was down in Florida and the Carolinas mostly.
Okay.
And so I talk about that and need to update my blog some more this year with the whole house remodel adventure. But that is notcamping.com.
Notcamping.com. Okay. Do you like camping?
No.
Oh, really?
So that's a funny story. I was planning this trip. I sold everything I had, my house, everything in it in Texas, and was just going to travel, see how long I lasted. And I kept getting the question over and over again. They're like, are you going to be like camping? That's not really safe, is it? And I said, no, I'm not going to camp. I like nice things. I need central heat and air at night and, a normal bathroom.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, funny. I like camping, but I'm also scared of camping. Like I'm scared of snakes, bears, everything out there. I'm here in Florida, so, but I don't know. I just gather the courage to go camping. I love it. Not glamping, but camping. And so, now having the courage to sell it all and go, I think that's a lot braver than camping. That's a lot braver than camping. Even if it's here in the US, it's just like, So you heard it, guys, here at the influential Christian entrepreneur, Megan Giles, Giles, Gilles. I said that wrong the first time. It's Giles.
Just one L.
Oh, just one L?
Yes.
Oh, goodness. I have that wrong, too. The whole spelling of your last name says Giles. You can find her at, say that website again,
Notcamping.com.
notcamping.com. And your professional?
Design website is mggraphics.design. And LinkedIn is Megan Giles.
Megan Giles. Perfect. So if you are a Christian CEO or executive seeking to authentically integrate your faith and professional brand on LinkedIn to inspire others, further God's kingdom, and leave a legacy, let's connect. Exactly what we've been talking about today. If you feel called to share your testimony and inspire other people by using your personal stories and building a faith-driven personal brand, you can find me at FrancineSinclair.com, or you can email me at hello@FrancineSinclair.com. I want to thank you, Megan, for being here today and talking to us about your journey. I love seeing or hearing people's different perspectives on this topic because it's very enriching, and it's also a way to build a community and give an example to other people, other entrepreneurs, or even people at work, that there's not only one way to do it and that there are other people also doing it. And in the times that we are in, it is urgent that we share our faith and that we let people know about Jesus Christ, because if we don't do it, nobody else will.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to The Influential Christian Entrepreneur. We'll be back next week with another amazing guest. Take care. Bye. Hold on one second. Does the top of your screen say